Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of GameGuru MAX live broadcast number 96. I think it is. That's right, 96. Before I get started, I just want to check that everyone can hear me loud and clear. I have a chat window off to the side. You can't see it, but I can see it. Just want to make sure that everyone can hear the sound of my voice. Did notice that my software, when I booted it up earlier, had suddenly decided to wipe out my microphone settings. Good job I checked before I started this. But there's no guarantee that actually worked, or whether you can hear me or not. I'm getting some sound levels. We can hear you, Lee. Great, wonderful. Well, let me carry on. So what is the purpose of these live broadcasts? Well, we've divided it into two equal slices of lovely cake. The first part is a demo, so I show you some cool stuff that we've been working on. In this particular case, something we're going to release very soon indeed. And then the second part is a Q&A. You get an opportunity, if you're joining us live, to post your questions in the live chat and I will answer them later on after the demo. If you do have a question, just stick a question mark in at the end. I am joined very kindly by Zach, who will be trying to answer your questions whilst I'm doing the demo. And then any questions that cannot be answered, those questions will be repeated and I get to answer, or have a chance to answer them when I go into the Q&A session. So that's basically the format. So without further ado, let's get stuck in and let me show you what I have to show you today. And what I have to show you today, and we hinted at it before, but this is the official launch this week, if all goes to plan, the release of the Aztec Game Kit. So what is a game kit, I hear you scream? Well, it's a DLC, and what we decided this time round, we had plenty of DLCs for GameGuru Classic. For GameGuru MAX, we wanted to create something that has a little bit of everything that lets you make a game in a particular theme, so we called them game kits. And by that I mean things like weapons, characters, scenery, mechanisms, some new gameplay logic that you're going to need for that particular game theme. And so that's basically the philosophy that embodies the game kit. It's basically a little bit of everything so you can get stuck in. And this is our first one, the Aztec. We've picked on the Aztecs this time. And I want to show you a little bit of what we've been doing and introduce in the form of a teaser. So every time we do a game kit, which will be available on Steam and non-Steam, we'll also produce a teaser. What is a teaser? Well, obviously it's a little demo so you can run through some of the content. When we actually put some of the content in the core product, you don't actually need to buy the Aztec Game Kit to have a treat every now and again and have some content. So a weapon maybe, some characters, some scenery, and use that. And if you feel, this is really good, I want more, then you can go on and you can get the Aztec Game Kit from Steam or non-Steam. So that's the principle of the thing. Best thing I can do, I think, is just run the demo. So I'm going to go in, and this is the teaser, by the way. If we have time, I might show the full thing, but maybe you'll see that in other places, videos, etc. And the most of you will probably start off with the teaser to see if you like it or not. And so this is probably a great place, a great level to demonstrate, because everyone will be able to play with this on Friday when we release. And that is the plan, to release the Aztec Game Kit at 4 p.m. this Friday, 2 days from now. So this is the teaser. I've selected 2 characters, a weapon, a handful of scenery, a switch, a door, and this demo is a little quick, pulled it all together to show you each of those things and some of the logic as well. So I'll talk you through it. Hopefully the sound effects of the game don't get too loud. First thing, of course, is a collectible. So this is the Aztec dagger. So you've got 2 modes. You can have like that, or you can have it like this, and you can attack. We've added a new feature for a particular weapon set called right mouse button. So right mouse button is playing another animation, so left and right. So everything's on the mouse pointer. So that's the weapon. We'll get back to that a little bit later. Also got something called hostage logic. So you can set a character to be a hostage. You can see this person's a prisoner. Press E to open the door and rescue the hostage. Untie the hostage, and then the hostage rolls running off and you've just rescued. Maybe that's an objective from one of your games, and that logic is now being included in the core, but we actually have more assets that you'll get in the Aztec Game Kit. Now I'll get your weapon back. we fixed. We're always fixing things, but as I work on the Aztec Game Kit, things emerge, and those they get high priority and they get fixed sooner. So now mouse wheel forward and backward in weapons now looks great. A little bit of delay and quite a lot of work has actually been done on the melee side. So you'll experience that when you play the teaser level. So with a door, so you've got some scenery as I've mentioned. You've got a door. Door locked, find switch to open. I've kept it pretty simple. So activate switch, which rotates, door slides open, and then this is one of the characters in the game, and the other one you just saw running off. So as you can see, this character can do multiple attacks. I can attack as well. Like so, I've given this character a bit low health, so you don't get too injured. Just get rid of this guy. Wait till the music calms down, because that music you just heard, did you notice how it started when you was engaged in combat and it faded out and restored the ambient music once combat was over? That's a new feature. It's a combat music track, and you'll be able to specify that as a global value and also set the volume. And for any applicable scripts, if a combat is detected, that gets triggered and faded in and faded out automatically for you. So that's a new feature, the combat music system. Please let me know if you would like us to expand it in the future. We certainly have some ideas to have different kinds of music tracks based on different things that go on in the game. So watch this space in the near future for RPG, when you might have a conversation piece when you're wielding magic, or you're talking to a character, or whatever the case might be. You want a set of global music tracks that you can trigger very easily from your game logic. So the combat music, pretty excited about that. That was a relatively last minute add, and it really adds some ambience to the soundscape. As you've seen logic for the melee attack, which is what this character was using, and of course hostage logic. Let me just go through. I think I added a few more. There's also another thing I haven't shown you, and maybe I could go into the level editor, but effectively you have insta-kill, or instantly killable, whatever you want to call it. Effectively, put a character facing away from you and you crawl like that. You're silent, you don't make any sound, and you go right behind them and bam. And that's an insta-kill. You don't have to deplete the health, that's an instant kill. And so it rewards sneaky behaviour. So here's another character, who's dropped in here. I think he's got more health, but I'm going to just stab him a lot. There you go. And when they attack, and you attack of course, but also they have lots of reactions. They stab and they stagger back, they stagger left, they stagger right. And in staggering left and right, they change the target position. So the combat isn't just a case of standing there pointing in one direction and just smashing the left mouse button. You actually have to move and follow the combat around. And there's other properties that you'll find in it's called melee attack behavior, so go check that out for more features of the different properties that you get in that logic. And I'll just complete this teaser. As you see, we've got some ruins here. In there's some other ruins and some columns. That is the Aztec temple, lots of textures going on there, but at the top we've also given you something like this. This is actually constructed. This isn't one building. It's walls and corners and columns and bits. And just like a massive Lego kit, you can build your own Aztec constructions with these large prefab bits that you can connect together. And I'll show you a little bit later, you have two styles. You have Aztec in the contemporary theme, so when they built it and it was new and it was painted. You also have the ruins, what happened 450, 500 years later when all the paint fell off and it was weathered. So we're actually going to give you two sets. A set if you're actually living amongst the Aztecs, and a set where you discover the remains 500 years later. So I thought that was a nice touch. So I've got to come in and do more. In fact, no, yeah, I will. I'll attack this guy. Come on, you. Get rid of him. So I've given myself quite a lot of health. If you'd set your health to say 100 instead of 500, you wouldn't be able to take too much punishment, so you'd have to keep attacking, moving back, attacking, strafing, etc. But I kind of wanted the demo to be a bit more of a walk through the assets rather than can't get to the end. So we can go inside. This is what's constructed. Got some nice steps. Go around the outside. I think, yeah, there's some more steps here. You've got some health. Added some health into the teaser. And if we go up this final set of twisty steps, then game complete. And that's the end of the demo. And then you can look out over all you survey. As I said, this is just a teaser. This is a small handful of assets. The full Aztec Game Kit contains a lot of stuff. Lots of characters, lots of weapons. We have a dagger, we have an axe, we have a spear. They all have their own animations and their own ranges and strengths. So the way we've done it is dagger is the most powerful, but it's close range. The axe is mid-range with mid damage. And then the spear is a nice long-range weapon, but it doesn't do as much damage as, say, an up-close and personal dagger. So that's how we've staged it, and it works quite well, especially when you assign a character as an enemy, another character as an ally, and watch them fight it out. And you can change the different weapons and see how they fight it. It's pretty cool. Okay, so that's the teaser. I want to show you two more things before we hand it over to questions. And that means leaving that teaser and going into this. This is my little temporary project. But fortunately, it shows you exactly what I want to show you. So again, this is I think this is a contemporary platform. This is nice and fresh, got some columns. And what I want to show you, if I just go into developer mode and switch this on, the reason you'll see a bit later why I've done that is if I select this large platform on which you can build other things and go to general, I want to show you this collision mesh. It's a minor thing and it's a slightly techie thing. Don't worry, we'll get back to some more visuals a little bit later. But this was also added for this Friday's build. And it's something requested by artists, and I think it's a really good idea. At the moment, if you wanted really good collision on intricate looking models, you only had three options. You had polygon, which would take every single polygon and give it to the bullet physics system, and it would take the lowest. Then you've got convex hull, which can wrap it like in shrink wrap, and it's a much more efficient way of detecting collision. And then you've got hull decomposition, which tries and figures out all the different shapes and composites them together to create a still efficient physics shape, but it doesn't always get it right. Artists said, well, can't we control the collision mesh ourselves and submit it? So we get to define all the polygons. And said, I said, yes, that's a very good idea, and it's what modern games do, a lot of them, if probably most of them. And so we have a new collision mode called collision mesh, and all you need to do, I go here, yeah, is to provide this, a .obj file. So it could be underscore call, or you don't need the underscore call, you could just have it next to your .dbo, so you're not to do that, you got .dbo, and then obj. And it's just a simple static obj that matches the DBO model, and that will actually contain the collision mesh. We've also got code in the engine where it detects the collision mesh within the model. So if you've got a mesh inside your model called collision underscore mesh, it uses that as well instead of using the external .obj. So you have both methods. Once you've actually created it internal or as an external file, then the collision mode that you're looking for is collision mode 8, which will give you the collision mesh here. Or if you've got a model that from somebody else, then you can actually do it from this, from the general tab, and select collision mesh, provide a .obj file, and you're good as good, good as gold. So that's something I wanted to mention, the collision mesh, and you'll see that used a lot more. But just to demonstrate, nothing better than a demonstration. If I set that to polygon, and I set myself as developer because I get this extra tab here, physics, render physics shapes. And what that really means is it shows me in green all these green polygons here. Each one of those is being given to the physics system. Imagine how performance hungry it is to detect moving up and down those steps. Now watch what happens if I actually use this brand new collision mode, which is collision mesh. Now remember, you do have to have the .obj or a collision mesh inside the model for this mode to work. But if you have that, or you have a friendly artist who will provide it for you, look how fewer polygons there are, and it's actually quite smooth. So it goes up like that, and that's how you get away with it. And you've got a nice collision. It uses as few polygons as possible to create that, and then you can move on. Then your physics stays fast and you're not doing very silly things, and that's how it works. So that's collision mesh. Hopefully you'll see more uses of this as we release more assets, both in the core product and in the future asset packs. And the final thing I want to show you is maybe the thing you've been tuning in for, which is a little tour of all the assets. So if I go to add, select Aztec Game Kit, this is the full collection. The good news is, and it's something that we are meaning to continue like from day one, is that any character that we provide as an asset was built using the character creator, which means all of the body parts and the heads and the headdresses and the clothes and the shoes or whatever it is, they're all body parts. You can mix and match to create your own characters. But to make things nice and easy and out of the box, we've created some characters for you. So some civilians, some priests, warrior or two, we've got a witch, and that's just so you can just select them, drop them in, and start making a level very quickly. But as I said, go to the character creator and you've got lots of extra parts and you can mix and match. Doors, we've given you a few secret passages. So looks like a regular wall, but it isn't, it slides. So you can put that in a gap, and then when you trigger it, it will actually slide upwards to give you access to new parts of your level. And we've done the same with a big wide wall if you wanted that there too. And remember in the teaser where you open the cage, we've actually got that as well. So it's a cage door and it's just a piece of wood with some cross hatching. I mean, you could use that anywhere where there's a gap and it will just open up. Happy days. Health, you've got a big health and a little health, so a poultice and a full pot of health. Skip scenery for now. Switches, you've got a gold crank and you've got a regular stone crank. That's the one you saw where it oh, did you see it? No? Oh yes, you did see it, where it rotates and you can rotate it back if you have it as a toggleable. And anyone who played the old Tomb Raider games will probably recognize this one with the little stick, and you push it in and it triggers something in your game. So we've got some nice triggers for you. And finally, weapons. You've got the Aztec axe. That's the straight from history. We looked at pictures and that's what it looked like, so that's what you get. The Aztec dagger and the Aztec spear. So you've got three nice weapons, all melee and all have different properties, and they've been tested with player and characters and allies. And finally, the big one is, let me just go full screen on this. This is the scenery. This is the biggest collection because this is where you're going to spend a lot of your time. Let's just start at the bottom with village. If we go down a little bit, so you can see a bit more of what's going on. So you've got peasant huts, round ones, square ones, lots of furniture that you can populate. They have rather boring, unpainted, not very precious pottery. Just made it themselves. Got some places to keep animals. Got extra roof pieces. So yeah, it's sort of someone is out in the forest, jungle, and they've made it themselves. So that's all your village stuff. In total contrast, you have treasure. So these are lovely golden items you can spread around. Maybe they're objectives. So you collect the not holy grail. So you get nice gold stuff here. Ruins. Now, when we was developing the game kit, we started with these, but then we quickly realised we needed a lot more. But imagine these as modern day ruins of the last 500 years of history. So you'll find this not just pure Aztec, maybe someone's mixed in like a bit of a folly and some more modern brick and showing the history of it's basically stone robbing. So that's kind of what you end up with, the rocks that were too heavy or too nasty to actually build another house with. So that's kind of this ruins category. And then, as I mentioned before, we have two sections. We have what you've just seen a little taster of in the teaser, which is the ancient city parts with walls and columns. If we go down a little further, we've got steps and more different kinds of walls and plinths and platforms, all the way to entire temples and tombs and other buildings. And you got faded paint. See all the faded paint? So there's a little bit of paint, more platforms. And they're done in such a way that you can sort of construct the layout that you want for your level. And now you're in the city, you know, the pots are a little, because it's ancient, these are all mouldy, so they've been sitting around for hundreds of years. Whereas the village was contemporary, their pots were clean. Whereas in an ancient city, you know, nature's taken its course and they're all mouldy. So you've got staircases, big buildings, huge walls, and faded painted walls as well. So imagine it was built and then 500 years of time passed, and that's what they look like. Compare that with contemporary city. These are as if they built them a week ago. So nice, clean columns, clean walls, shiny brickwork. You got strong paint on the walls and painted edges for your paths. You got not tapestries, but painted pictures inside buildings. You see that dragon head before was all mossy. This is a nice clean one. Freshly painted pots, because in the city they've got more money, so they can afford to make their pots look a lot nicer. And so you can actually have 3 kinds of pots. It's the same pot, just three different skins based on context, where a peasant couldn't afford to paint them, or they were painted but then 500 years passed, or they painted them last week, and that's what you see in your game. As you can recognize, these are the clean versions of all the buildings, and the brand new walls, and the clean walls, and the painted walls. And if I just open up, you'll actually see I've helped out a little bit by made some subcategories, just if you want the columns, or just if you want the walls. If you're doing lots of walls, you can very quickly get at them without pouring through all of this. So that's a tour of all the assets. I'm highly encouraged to check out the teaser, see if you like what you see, and if you want some more, the Aztec Game Kit is there ready and waiting for you. We do plan to release it Friday at 4 p.m. in 2 days' time, so keep your eye out for that announcement. We've got it already. And if you are not yet convinced, then also check out our Friday build that we also put out 4 p.m, which will include, and if I just come out of this and go to there, now I don't want to save, and go to the demo games, you'll see the Aztec Game Kit teaser. So all you've got to do is select that, go into edit and play that game to check out the stuff. So I'm just checking the clock. I can't believe that. I've actually been talking non-stop for 26 minutes. Well done, Lee. That leaves 3 minutes for questions and answers. Only joking. So as is my custom, I'm going to have something nice in the backdrop as I drag that live chat across. In fact, if I put it, see there, sorry about that, and then drag this in, like so, we can see if there's any questions for me. Now, as is my custom, I'm going to answer the questions that are posted from now, just in case other things have already been answered, and I don't have to provide 2 answers. Or we don't have to provide 2 answers. So I'm going to go with Zach's, because it's got quite a lot of questions that need answers. The 4th one from the bottom, sorry, is Haley. Question for you: how goes development and the team's morale, motivation? I know from personal experience it'd be quite hard to see a project through for such a long time. Yeah, the team's pretty good. We're really excited. I think this is the best game maker we've ever done, and we've been doing them since 1999, which is a long time. If we're still excited and doing this kind of thing after, what would it be, over 20 years? Yeah. We have ways to keep ourselves motivated, so don't worry about that. We have lots of cool ideas that we want to bring out. It's just a case of priority, what gets done next, what gets done after that. So keep an eye out. There's lots of other things on the horizon, some near, some far. Here's a question: when will we be able to add additional footstep sounds and material sounds to the audio bank? Currently there are only 10 materials in the audio bank materials folder. You could do it right now, but you're going to have to be a bit of a notepad aficionado, which of course no one wants to hear for GameGuru MAX. We do plan to extend the customizability of those things that's already been identified. Custom skyboxes, custom footfalls, custom materials, custom textures on the terrain. We already have this list. We do feel that it is important that you get to bring in your own art. But we're still going through what we consider to be super high priority, which is stability, performance, making sure GameGuru MAX delivers on the functions that we've already said it has, and making sure that those are good and polished and do everything that you need them to do to make a game. Once that's sort of cleared and getting out of the way, it'll never stop, but once it's the lion's share, the bulk of it has been done, yes, we will be starting through the list of expanding on the customizability of the editor, so you can start bringing in your own art. Those who don't want to wait for us, there are ways, and if you want to know what those are, please go onto the forums. Happy to answer questions there, or on Discord, and I can show you what we do, what we would do if we wanted to add new footfalls or new materials, etc., etc. Third question from Zach's early questions is, can the Aztec melee enemies dodge your attacks? They can, in the sense that once you've hit them, then they will have a percentage chance to dodge left or right. That way you have to adjust. But if you mean as you go for the attack, can they dodge? I was going to do that, and in fact I tried to fudge the hurt and strafe animation to provide that. But it looked a little bit weird. It looked like they were dodging, but also hurting themselves in the maneuver of the dodge. So what we really need is more animations. So if more people look at the melee system that we currently have and say, not only dodging, but this, that, and the other, please let us know. And if we see there's commonality and a lot of people asking for the same things, then yeah, it's pretty easy to create those animations and add them to the melee attack behavior. We've just started with a version 1 just to get everything up and running so you can actually have a decent melee fight with the new melee weapons. Here's a question: will we have control over the volume of characters or zones we give voice or sound to? You have volume control over globals, so global music and global sound. You have specific volume control over ambient and combat music. If you're a scripter, you also have per sound control of everything. You can volume control all of it. So I suppose you're asking, because all the things are already available, is there anything in the UI where you can target a specific sound effect and set the volume? Not at the moment. It's a good idea, but all the sound effects that we provide, we've already made sure that they're correctly balanced for the volume for the game, so everything kind of sounds correct based on the player's ears. If you are creating your own sounds and then want to change the volume, you can actually change the volume or the amplitude in your sound editor. So you can take your WAV and you can make it louder or quieter, save that WAV file, convert it to an OGG, if or not, and then bring that sound in, and then it will inherently have that value that you set. But again, it's not as easy as just having a slider in the UI. So if anyone else likes the idea of every sound effect can have its own volume slider, might make the UI a bit busy, but let me know if that's a good idea or not. Okay, question mark. Would there be a way for the hands and weapons to take up less screen space? Yeah, don't worry about the dagger. I mean, I've not shown you, but the axe and the spear, you hardly see the hands at all. You only see the pointy bit of the weapon as you run around, which is what most modern games do. I do fully anticipate that the dagger, which is currently very high, the hands are almost shoved out in front of the player. That is actually in progress now, to tweak that idle and move animation to push it further down. It can be done in code, but I'd prefer it to be done properly through the animation. So watch this space for last minute tweaks between now, which is Wednesday, and Friday when we finally release. So hopefully I can get that correction in. But you're absolutely right, a little bit too high right now. Rick V post, the price is $29.99 with a 15% discount for the first week. So I thought I'd vocalise that just in case it wasn't clear and people aren't looking at the chat and may have missed it. So continuing through with the questions. This is from Tatman. Will there be more than one water plane so we can have lakes in, or are the mountains just different heights of water areas? Yeah, that's been on our list for quite some time. And I do want to do it. Right now you can sort of fake it if you get like a puddle object, and then make it big, scale it up, and then put it into sort of like a dip in the terrain. You can create lakes, but they're only aesthetic. They don't have the properties of being able to swim across them or go underwater. We do have plans to do water bodies, but what we want to do is make sure that the sort of the water level water's correct first. Once we're happy that that water's great, the visuals are great, the sound effects are great, the underwater effects are good. Once it's all there and we think, yes, we're now quite happy with the water, then it makes perfect sense to expand that into water bodies, so you can have mountain lakes and small rivers and other small water bodies that you might want for gameplay reasons. Question. Here's another one from Zach from earlier, potentially. Could you stain the dagger with blood after using it to make it more realistic? Yeah, we used to have that way back when. It was called alt texture. but it was only for objects. So an object could be walking along, minding its own business, and then in script you can trigger it to have a second a second texture, which might be burned or bloodied or scorched or whatever it is. But it was never extended to the weapon system. The weapons are always clean and pure. How we go about staining weapons, you know, where do we draw the line there? Is it just blood, or is it gore, or is it dirt, or is it scorch, or is it scratches? We are going to be looking at weapon degradation when we do RPG. One of the staples for RPG is that when you use a weapon over and over, it gets damaged and eventually it breaks. And one of the RPG sort of staples is you take an old broken weapon and you can repair it for some coins and then get a nice shiny new weapon. If that degradation can be represented visually as well as some number in your inventory or player stats, then that would be great. So I see that as something that's going to happen probably around the RPG work. But there's no actual firm plans to do it in terms of what we're doing right now, especially with the shooter stuff. Okay, here's a question. This is from Exo Playmaster. I am sorry, I maybe missed it, but is it possible to add RPG elements even without the RPG mode? There'll be a lot of crossover. Currently, we've been doing shooter. Aztec is introducing a little bit of melee, edging closer to RPG. RPG is likely to be next, and that'll be a lot of RPG. But there's no reason why you can't mix genres. But we will actually be putting very RPG flavoured stuff within these buttons up here. I don't think you can see my mouse, but we've got the shooter one here, then we've got the puzzle one here, and the RPG one here. It's just so we don't blast the UI with a billion buttons and we can separate them out. But yeah, you can certainly make a game that crosses multiple genres. It's just in the editor we've divided them up a little bit to make it a little bit easier for you to find them quickly. And once you're familiar with, oh, that's the RPG one, then you can go straight there and you're not having to scroll through lots of panels. Okay, looking for a question after that one, which is another one from Zach Judges. Will there be a city-based kit? Yeah, eventually, but we figured it's a lot to bite off, and the reason is we currently have terrain and water and sky and we have all this kind of stuff, but a city, you need roads, buildings, multiple story buildings, going inside buildings, going in lifts, lampposts, traffic lights, vehicles, pedestrians by the thousands. That's a whole nest of vipers. So what we decided to do is creep up to it. We'll do it bit by bit, and eventually, once we get enough of the mechanics in play, city will probably be a lot easier to do down the road. So there's no plans to do it like tomorrow, but it's certainly something that we will have to get to create a fully rounded game maker. Here's one from 3Com. Some thoughts about thunder, lightning, night and day. We're okay with the weather that we've got. You can make it snow and rain, but we're not really happy with as the final solution. We want proper rain, proper snow, proper thunder, proper lightning, and all of the ancillary effects, wind blowing, moving trees, moving grass. So we do have ambitions to improve that section, but as I said earlier, there's higher priority items we want to get through before we go back to that. And as part of that, as you might imagine, you would have the day-night cycle. Because lightning in the day and lightning at the night, two very different visual effects. We need to make sure that when we say we do lightning, it's lightning any time of the day. So we'll have both the day and night cycle in and around the same time, because it's all related to lighting, sky, weather, effects, sounds, all kind of clubbed together. Another question, this is from Math220. When will the video importer be available? You can actually have a video zone right now. So it's the story zone, just get it from the game elements, drop it in, select a video, and then when you go into that zone, it plays the video. However, you might mean importing a video onto a texture of an object, so then that object is playing that video. It's never a good idea to play an MP4 through an object's texture. It's just a performance hog. What you typically do is create a texture atlas of that animation, and then use a shader to animate that on your textured object. Presumably that's what you mean when you say video importer, but if you just mean playing a video when you walk into a particular section of game, check out the what's it called? In fact, I'm going to leave the chat just to show you what I'm thinking about. Which one is it, Lee? Oh, here it is, Grand Canyon Adventure. That actually starts with a video. When you first land next to your truck, four-wheel I should say, it actually plays a video. So definitely check that out. Back to the chat, because that shows you exactly how to do it. And it's the MP4 format that you'll be creating your videos in. So I'm looking at the clock, we're at 39 minutes. I know there were some users who did express that they wish the Q&A could go on a bit longer. And to be fair, it's only been 10 minutes. So I'll pick a few more questions, but I think I'm just scrolling through the list. I don't think we'll actually get all these questions done. But we'll carry on for a bit longer until I get an evil look from Rick. Another team member to say, Lee, shut up. Okay, next question would be from Nathan. Can you guys make in-game time of day change based on a trigger so that level starts at night but ends at the morning? Yeah, that's what we call the day-night cycle and the game clock. And for early access, we disabled it because we wasn't happy with it and we wanted to do more on the weather and the sky system. So once we go back to that for, like, say, a version 2 improvement, it makes perfect sense to then bring back the day-night cycle and your game time. And so you would set your start game time and the speed your game time progresses through that level. And you'll have that per level setting. So you can actually choose whether you start at day or at night, whether your game stays on that time or whether it moves slowly or whether it moves quickly. And if you're interested in doing a little bit more, we'll actually have some Lua commands or some visual logic editing commands where you can actually change that dynamically in the game. Imagine you go to, say, a bedroll and then you press a particular key and then you let 24 hours pass and you're looking through a window, you might see the sun flicking past. So I see that as being a nice little extra add once we've got day-night cycle up and running, and it looks as good as the ideas that we have in our head right now. Okay, next question is from Psycho Law Chris. Will there be more hairstyles for the character creator? Always. Every time we do a game kit, we'll be adding to the character creator with more body parts. Any opportunity we have to create new characters, it will be sacrilege to just make them a standalone. We're always going to look at what we've got, and if we think, you know what, this character needs a particular beard or a hat or a pair of shoes that it really needs for authenticity, and it isn't in the character creator parts list, we'll add it there. And that means, of course, when that new beard or that new hairstyle comes along, then you can apply it to all the previous character creator parts that you've got, which of course means more and more variety as we go and we grow the library. So yeah, we absolutely plan to add, but as a necessity, as we come up with a new theme and we want to create a game that looks good, we will have a parts list that we need and we'll create it for the character creator, which means you get it in the character creator. Here's a question, or is a question. No, it looks no question mark there. Who's got the next question mark? Wow, it goes all the way down to Tom. Are you still intending adding animals to populate the terrain? Yes. We weren't really happy with sort of this point cloud system, you know, specifying each point is an animal, because it was just a little bit silly. What you really want is areas of probability that you will encounter an animal in that area. And so because we weren't really happy with the design we could have implemented, we're going to hold back on that until there's a solution that, yeah, that actually makes sense. That you're going to go hunting in a forest, you don't want to place individual animals down, you just want to say, within the borders of this forest, there's a probability that X number of animals exist, and there's X number of percentage that the player gets to see them, find them, hunt them, etc. And again, that's kind of leaking into that RPG genre, where it is about hunting, gathering, skinning animals, collecting the body parts, going to a shop and selling them, and crafting and stuff like that. So look forward to that down the road, because you will not want to be placing individual rabbits down. You'll just want to go into your terrain generator and say, in addition to populate with trees and grass, there'll be another tick box, populate with animals, and I'll give you some probability areas for the level in rough before you go into the sculpting part and then refine those areas of probability. So sorry if that got a bit technical, but that's kind of where we're thinking to move the automatic population of the terrain with animals. and obviously it will be by default as well. So once it's in, and you just select rainforest, we'll take care of just populating it with the likeliest animals. So you don't even have to think about it, they'll just run up and surprise you. Here's a question from Nightfall X. Will you be adding a block system to you and AI? Yes, I think we are. As I've mentioned, we may be doing RPG down the road, and one of the things I've wanted to do for a while, and we are, because of the Aztec Game Kit, we have actually developed a new weapon system in order to cater for the new features of the melee combat system. And one of the things that sort of is that needs to be next on my list is blocking. So left hand would have a shield, right hand would have a sword, and then right mouse button would lift up the shield to block. And then when you block, you could sort of parry their attack, they go off guard, and then you can club them with the sword, or counter attack. So if they're attacking and you time the block and attack right, then maybe you can rip the weapon out of their hand and then go for a quick kill. So yeah, those are the things that I am thinking about. It's all about enriching that gameplay experience, but we're going to do it in tandem with game kits. As a game kit needs new mechanics and new logic, we'll create the artwork, we'll create the things you need to see on screen, the things you hear, and then we'll tie all that in with the logic. And then of course once it's in the core forever. And then if you wanted to create your own weapons later on to use those features, then you're quite welcome to do so. So I think 45 minutes in, I think this is one of the longest broadcasts. Should I be proud? Who knows? But unfortunately, I do have to leave it there. I apologise if you have asked a question you didn't get an answer. You are always welcome to join us next Wednesday at 7 p.m. GMT, where I'll be able to answer more of your questions. I think the rule of thumb is if you do have a burning question, get it in immediately, because those are the first questions that either Zach or myself will answer once we finish the demo part and we go into the Q&A part. So again, I just want to remind everyone that keep your eye out on Friday at 4 p.m. or shortly thereafter. Not only will we be releasing an update for everyone who's got GameGuru MAX with lots of cool new features and of course the Aztec Game Kit teaser, but the actual Aztec Game Kit itself also available, so you can augment your object library with, I think it's 250 plus more assets. And there's some nice crossover, and it really delves deep into the melee side. So you've had projectiles, you've got a lot of weapons that fire bullets. Now you can be up close and personal with your future game ideas. So until next week, it's Wednesday at 7 p.m. GMT. Thanks for your kind attention. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you all next week. So until then, goodbye.